Having done so many videos on Tonex and the Tonex platform, I do get asked a lot of questions about how folks can make their tone models sound better, how they can tweak them. And there are two settings that do come up a lot of times that a lot of folks don't realize are there, or maybe don't have set correctly just because they don't really understand the ramifications of having them set one way or the other. So today I'm going to dive into those two things. I'm also going to take this opportunity to show you a couple smaller, more concise tone model collections I have available on my website. Now, recently I took delivery of a really incredible 2-rock amplifier, which is a studio signature head along with the 2-rock cabinet, single 12 cabinet with a 2-rock TR12 speaker inside of that. I'm not sure who actually manufactures that for them. I believe it could be Warehouse Guitar Speakers. If anybody knows for certain, you can leave me a comment below. But whatever speaker it actually is, it sounds incredible. So I started experimenting with that speaker with some different amplifiers, and I did some captures of my incredible Rev Generator 100R through that. Maybe not the pairing you would think, but boy, oh boy, do these sound great. And I also took another real favorite of mine, my Marshall Studio JTM head, and paired it up with that same 2-rock cabinet. And I've got to say, the tones are spectacular. So I'm going to take you through those first. We'll just try to go through some tones real quick, and then I'm going to show you what to watch out for in these parameters that can easily be missed, that can be very powerful within Tonex to really shape our tone or possibly do damage to it if we don't really know how things are working and how we're set. So without further ado, let's head right over to Tonex. First of all, let me take you through these two new collections. What you'll see here is I have my JS Brit 45 TR, alts 1, 2, and 3. So you'll also see down here I have my JS Rav TR alt. So with the Brit 45, I captured both the normal and treble channels at 3 different gain levels, kind of a clean edge of breakup, and then as much distortion as it's capable of. It's not a very high gain amp, but really cool vintagey tones out of it. So I got both the normal and the treble channels on that. As far as the Rev amp, I did a clean push 1, push 2, OD1, OD2, OD3, the various channels and aggression settings. So starting off on the first level of gain on the normal channel, on the bridge pick, I'll go to the neck. Beautiful stuff. I'll go back to my bridge. Now, same level of gain on the treble channel. A little bit thinner and brighter. This one's a little more mid-focused. Moving on to the second level of gain, bridge pickup on the normal channel. Here is more hair on that. Neck pickup. Move on to the treble. Again, just a little thinner of a tone. Moving on to the treble. Neck pickup again. Now moving to the final level of gain. On the normal channel, real vintage gooey vibe here. Neck pickup. Just loving that. And the treble input on this, just a little bit thinner. Maybe a little bit, tiny bit more gain. And they clean up beautifully. Exactly the same way the real amp would. Neck pickup. Here a little bit more squish on the normal channel. Now moving on to a completely different vibe, the Rev generator amp through the same cab. So this is the clean setting. Neck pickup. Rev amp is a really versatile amp. Let's move down to push 1. So this is the channel 2. Pairs up beautifully again with the speaker cab. Moving on to push 2, same channel, but now just push a little more into overdrive. Neck pickup. Moving on to the first level of overdrive on the 3rd channel. Second level of overdrive. And finally, the last level, kind of the most overdrive you're going to get out of this amp. So some great tones there. So let's just come back to, let's say, the treble channel on the 3rd level of gain on the Brit 45 TR. It's an amp and a tone that I love very much. So getting on to the topic of today's video, a couple settings that we've got to be extremely careful of. Now, first of all, when we pull up any amp skin here on a tone model, we have a set of controls. And I've discussed this in some other videos in depth, but I just wanted to give a quick refresher on this. You'll see depth and presence, noise gate, compression, reverb, volume, treble, mid, bass, and gain. Now, not all skins have those. Some might just have gain, bass, middle, treble, and volume, and that's it. So a lot of folks that aren't familiar with using Tonex, and thus the beginner's guide to Tonex, which is the series that this video is a part of, won't know that we can tweak this a lot more than face value shows us on the amp skin. The treble control we might think of as a normal treble control in an amp or a bass or a mid, but these are actually quite tweakable if we know where to look. So we have to come up to our advanced parameters tab here. As soon as we click this, you'll see a whole set of parameters expose themselves, shall I say. So we have bass, and you'll notice that this is tied to the bass control down here on the skin. When I move that, and we can always just control click clicks to get that back to the default position. What some folks don't realize is we also can control the frequencies that this bass control is going to utilize, or to control, shall I say. This is a shelf EQ. The treble and the bass are both shelf EQs. We can set the treble frequency. So somebody could come in here and set the treble frequency to 1,000, bass frequency at 600, and have a lot of control over their tone. They don't have to stick at that frequency. By adjusting the frequency, they're also going to dramatically affect how these bass and EQ controls actually work. You can decide to have it affect more or less frequencies, which is quite useful, and same for the treble. All while keeping the overall tone model intact. You'll notice there, since I'm only affecting all the frequencies above 4,000, I get a little more sizzle without affecting all the frequencies below all of that between 1,000 and 4,000. You'll see you get a little bit more honkiness from that mid-range with having the treble frequency set as such. So we want to be very careful with that and make sure that we're not just going down here, adjusting our bass, middle, and treble without really any knowledge of how those frequencies are set. And the other thing is the mid control has not only a frequency for its parametric bell EQ, style EQ, but it also has a Q setting for the width of how many frequencies are going to actually be affected. You know, you could take this, put it here, set a Q around 1.4. Kind of thin out some of the muddy frequencies if needed. Now I'm very, very happy with the way these tone models sound with everything just flat. But you never know what situation you're going to be in and how you may need to tweak these to make them just perfect. So there is that. Advanced parameter setting is very important. Now, the other setting that is very important is the pre-post switch. And a lot of folks don't really realize what this is doing, why it's there, so they just leave it alone. Now, for the most part, I run this in post, but a very important thing to remember is if I run this in pre, so post being turned off, all of the EQ right here from this line to the left is going to be hitting the front of the amp. The presence and depth are always going to be in post. We can't change that. So why is that important? Well, we're going to be EQing the guitar before it's processed by the tone model, but we're also potentially by, let's say, cranking up a whole bunch of extra EQ, if that's what we do. I'm not saying anybody's going to do that, but if we do, it's going to hit the front of the tone model harder. So it's going to saturate or potentially saturate that tone model a little bit more, and we may not get the same effect that we're looking for. If we want to just shape the overall tone of the tone model, we can put this in post. Now it's not going to affect how much gain we have in the amp. Now it may be subtle in some cases, but it's going to be there, and I think it's something people should be aware of. Now the pre-post can also be utilized on the compression, and this is extremely important because if we have compression in pre, the compressor is going to be acting again off the unprocessed guitar signal. So it's going to be acting off of, you know, the tone model oftentimes, especially with distorted tone models, acts as somewhat of a compressor already. So if we have this in pre, it's going to be working off all of those kind of sharper transient attacks of hitting the guitar. It's going to behave very different. Plus whatever makeup gain we put into it is also going to hit the front of the amp, again, potentially acting as a boost pedal or saturating the amp further, which we would want to be careful of. By putting it in post, it's now going to act on the tone model affected guitar tone. So it's not going to have all those transient spikes in the same way because chances are the tone model has compressed it somewhat itself. And the gain control now is just going to act more as an overall output level for that tone model. So if we then in post go to our model volume and boost it up, it's going to affect the amount of compression we have. So little things we have to be careful of. Things I've talked about in depth in videos earlier in this series, but I still get a lot of questions. And I thought it'd be worth just giving a quick refresher about those things. All right, so there you have it. I hope that those tips help you to maybe avoid some issues and get a little bit more out of your Tonex tone models and be able to fine tune them and tweak them exactly as such. Today, I'm going to leave you with the 2 demo videos for the 2 tone model bundles that I actually showcased today, both my Brit 45 TR Ultimate and my RAV TR Ultimate, and I hope you enjoy this music on the way out. Thank you guys so much for sharing your time with me. Please like the video, share it with anybody you think could get some use or enjoyment out of watching it. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back really soon with some more. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. Ciao for now.